Buenos Dias Gunners Collective. Back at it, you already know. Like a motherfucking smack addict. And yes, indeed, we're going to write graffiti all over this bus in a menudo style in a direct fashion. You can tell by that thumbnail right there. After we're about to get into some exclusive shit, some shit that happened, some shit that's been happening. And we're going to continue in as such and in that fashion. Now, trip out. What I wanted to talk about today, as you can tell by that thumbnail, are the Oakland Border Brothers. The BBs. Black baños. Black rags. Okay? Now, trip out. For those of you that ain't from Northern California, this is a gang that's been thriving in the city of Oakland for several years. Decades, in fact. And they're against the grain. They sort of remind me of the Fresno Bulldogs just based on the fact that these vatos are against everybody, against the grain, against the people, against whoever wants that action, whoever wants that fun. And being in the city of Oakland and being surrounded by norteños as well as sureños, you would think one gang like this, one hood, one barrio, one turf, wouldn't survive and wouldn't prosper. And hey, Sasuke, the wind's been blowing for them, right? They've been doing their thing. Now, Oakland Border Brothers, this actual movement or gang actually started in Tijuana, in Mexico. And an individual started this, a couple individuals started this gang. And they did it because they were being oppressed. They did it just to start something different. Something that they could be a part of, something that was just, different from the norm. These vatos were true believers in brown pride. Brown pride being, proud of one's skin, proud of one's color, proud of the raza. Okay, and of course, just like any other organization or gang, it gets started for good reasons, and then Sasuke, it goes left when it should have went right. And it's no big deal. That's part of life. That's the circle of life. That's what happens. So this gang started to spread, okay? It started to spread to the East Bay, Oakland. It's all throughout some of the surrounding cities, the southwestern states. Of course, all up the West Coast, you have BBs. But the most well-established neighborhood that you have is going to be in Oakland. And that's all the way from the 80s to the 100s. You're going to have the BBs, man, and they're representing and flying them black flags indubitably, right? And everybody knows exactly what their get down is and where they come from. But I'm about to give you an in-depth get down of exactly who the Border Brothers are and what they claim and any misconceptions that vatos may have to the best of my abilities. Because that's how the gun does it, right? And I've done time with them. I think I told a story about me and Spokio getting off in a riot in Nellis and the vato from BB's getting hit with the rock. So I'm scared he got folded like a napkin. Sas, boom, toma. There you go. Wipe your face. He got smashed on. Okay? And the reasoning behind this was the BB's in the beginning were cool with norteños. Okay? They were good with norteños. There was no funk. There was no problems. They were something a little bit different, but there was no friction or animosity there. They were more into the D game. They were more D boys. They were more about their money, and they continue to be about their money. Their ferio has always been real. The bolsita has always been there. But that's what they were pushing. That was their movement. That's really what they were into. They were just a local street gang trying to get that issue, right? Get their issue by any means necessary. But what happened along the way is, just like in anything, you start to pick up opposition. You start to pick up adversaries. Sasuke, you might have picked somebody's old lady's butt one time at the club. Sasuke, you might have drank someone's drink. Hey, that's my drink. What the Sasuke Spencer? You know what I mean? It's bocanas and pineapple, but it tasted good. What the? You were babysitting, right? So you just never know, man. But friction and animosity did start between the BBs and the norteños. And of course, when the sureños in the 90s started to come into the city of Oakland and the surrounding areas like Richmond, San Leandro, areas like that, of course, there was some type of friction there. Excuse me. There was some type of friction there with the Border Brothers as well. Okay, now when I say the name Border Brothers, a lot of autos automatically think paisas. They automatically think Mexican nationals, Mexicanos de Mexico. That is not the case. Of course, this gang is very raza orientated, meaning there's a lot more raza than anything, but there are some Africanos and others also involved in this hood. Okay, but this is not exactly what it entails. Okay, when I say Border Brothers, that is just the name of the hood. Now, not to be mixed up with the actual organization of Border Brothers, which are in federal prison, because yes indeed, there is an organization called the Border Brothers, and they're a pretty strong organization. This is kind of a spin-off of them that started actual street gang, a hood in the city of Oakland in Northern California, okay? And for years, these vatos have been putting it down. And for years, they've been caught up in a lot of issues. And you got to understand, in the city of Oakland is a melting pot. Okay, and I've talked about it just the other day. You got a heavy presence of Africanos, the Kumis, 415s, vatos from certain areas and different turfs. And Oakland, just like any other city, man, is treacherous. But Oakland, well, is just like Compton, right? In fact, Compton is just like Oakland because Oakland's been doing it since the Black Panther movement. You know, all these different movements that's entailed the city of Oakland. Oakland got a deep, rich history, and they've been continuing to do it, and they won't stop because they can't stop. It's forever forward with that city. You know, but like I said, it's a melting pot of a lot of different diverse people. You got a lot of Asians, you got a lot of Mexicanos, a lot of South Americans, and yes, of course, you're going to have a lot of Africanos. They're always going to have the heavier influence they established in Oakland to the fullest. That's a well-known fact, okay? Now, the city of Oakland is dangerous. It's one of those cities, if you're not from there, if you don't know anyone there, why go there, right? There ain't shit for you to do there. You know what I mean? Not for you if you're an outsider looking in. And it's a very dangerous place because individuals there hold it down for each fucking street, each block in their turf. And the Border Brothers are one of those subsets or one of those gangs that does that. Okay, they've been doing it pretty comfortably and pretty good for a lot of years. Now, not to say that there hasn't been war, because any place that there's a norteño and they don't like you, Sasuke, they're on you. They're on you like motherfucking tapatio on frijoles, right? They're going to be on you quick, fast, proficiently, and that's just what it is. And the war has been going. Now, let me tell you a story. I met a Border Brother after I was already out of the gang scene, and he also was out of the gang scene. He started to tell me some stories, right? Started to tell me some stories, and I was like, hey, what's that? How the fuck were you guys able to prosper in a city like Oakland? First of all, that's a grimy-ass city where, and respects to the city of Oakland, but motherfuckers would take your head right there. I don't even like to go get gas in Oakland. If I could wait, I'll hit Hayward. So I was getting, you know what I mean? But I was like, what's happening with it? And he was like, well, what happened, bro, is the hood was just there. And a lot of these vatos were like, not necessarily outcasts, because I don't want to put that on them, but they didn't take into the sur, or they didn't take into the north. This just wasn't their get down. They were more about, you know, their people, the raza, and initially that was their mindset. Of course, once you get involved in the gang, then you find out it's about money. It's about feria, it's about highness, it's about power, it's about being looked at a certain way. And so the vato told me, yeah, of course, he got in the mix because he was more about his brown pride. He was more about his people. He didn't have problems with North or South. Little did he know he was going to enter a gang that had problems with North and South, right? Against the grain. These vatos were against everybody. Now, the Africanos played it cool with them. They never have problems with Africanos, and that's mostly how it goes in the city of Oakland. The Norteños ain't got problems with the Africanos, the Sureños as well, and then, of course, the Border Brothers. And everybody got that cold twang, that cold twist in Oakland. See, Oakland is area, East Bay to the fullest town business. Okay, so you can't really tell these individuals apart, and that's where the war really gets hot, because if you see a vato from Border Brothers walking down the street, unless he's wearing a black sweater or something like that, he could be wearing a Raiders sweater. What do you think? Oh, orale, he's just a Raiders fan, right? You would never know. So a lot of vatos are able to be chameleons and fly under the radar. The shit gets real. The wiggle gets real out there. Now, anyone that thinks they're not busting motherfucking big things over there in Oakland, you got your fools mixed up like Brenton Woods. So I was kidding. These vatos have been doing it for several years. So anyways, conversating with this individual, he started to tell me about an incident that had happened, allegedly, right? That one time they were having a party in their neighborhood. It was in the 90s. And when I say the 90s, the 80s, 90s, the 100s, you got to understand all these streets in Oakland, you got cross streets, and a lot of them are in the O's. You know, in the 100s, you got 30s and 40s and 50s and 80s and 100s and 90s, and so on and so forth. These guys control pretty much the 90s all the way up to the 100s, but there have been known to be spread out into the 80s. Okay, so, but they're mostly in the 90s and hundos. And so one day they're partying in his neighborhood, they're kicking back, and 4 Norteños walk by, youngsters. And so, of course, for no other reason, his younger homeboys decide to jam these individuals up for being in their neighborhood. You know, old school 90s set tripping. Do we got a problem? Or did I say, do we got a problem? Right? So they decided to jam these individuals up. Little did they know these individuals were packing, ready. Of course, they were out there hunting BBs. Okay, so these individuals are thinking they're hyphy, you know what I mean? They got the gold grill, the black beanies, the black sweaters, and they're gonna hold it down for their hood. So they approach these young northerners to hit them up, and of course, wrong move. Orale, checkmate. Sas. Allegedly, the Northerners start to bust in their area, and a couple of vatos get hit. One gets paralyzed. Another one, man, gets meta-flighted up out of this motherfucking situation. He's over there in Frisco like that in the Tenderloin. Like, damn, what happened? Okay, they weren't playing. These young Northerners weren't playing. They were actually hunting. You know, they were actually waiting. They put the bait out there. These vatos bit, and that was it. And this was the day that this vato knew that shit was real. Okay, he said this was the day when his homeboy got put in the wheelchair. Another one of his homeboys got took out. That he knew that this is not what he signed up for. When I said, well, Sasuke, gangbanging is that. That's part of gangbanging. You know, you're a border brother. What the? You guys are against the grain. It's all lies on me. Orale Pac. You guys are against and have all kinds of different adversaries in the city of Oakland. What did you expect? He said, well, what I expected was a little bit of back and forth and exchange of words, and Sasuke, we'll go get you guys later. I said, no, the Norteños ain't doing later. They're doing right now. Sasuke, they don't believe in the future. They believe in the here and now. Sasuke, they don't believe in everything they see. They believe in everything that they do. And that's just what it is, right? And the same thing goes with the Sureños in the city of Oakland or anywhere. Any type of gang, even in my city. Sasuke, motherfuckers are going to get off where they're mad at. They're not going to wait. It's just, hey, fuck you, no, fuck you, no, fuck you. Hey, I'll hit you up later. Orale, chale, man. Motherfuckers like, fuck you, sas. Before you can even, there will be no response. This will be the response. And that's just how it is, especially now, more so nowadays than it was even back then. Back then, it was more fist fights. Nowadays, it's like, with some type of drum thing, allegedly, right? Some ghost thing. Anyways, this is what made him start to pursue a different avenue, get out of the gang. So I said, okay, well, what was the makeup of Border Brothers? What was your guys' whole concept, your rules, your regulations? So I like to know. I like to get educated. I wanted to know why these guys did what they did, how they adopted the black rag. And they adopted the black rag more so because in the beginning it was going to be brown. He told me, you know, brown for the brown pride, for the brown people. But there's already gangs out there calling themselves brown priders. And they didn't want to get it confused with what they had going on, you know. So they adopted the black rag because they felt black rag was totally opposite from the blue of the Sud and the red of the Norteños, right? And this was easily identifiable. If you see someone with a black body, you already knew where they were from. So the representation was real. According to him, they were out there repping hard, man, and holding it down. Now, he told me initially, like I said, they were about that feria. They were about that bolsita. And having the name Border Brothers and having a heavy presence of Mexicanos within their gang, within their hood, within their fold, and having connections back to Mexico, so I was scared the dope gang was real. Allegedly, right? So they were out there getting their money. And anyone that I've ever met, and I've met a couple hyenas and a couple different people that actually knew Border Brothers said, yeah, they were out there really having it their way, sideshowing, having money, gold in their mouth, jewelry. And of course, this is Oakland. This is typical Oakland. Everyone's doing that. But it just seems like the BBs were on top of that mountain when it came to that. You know, they had more connection. If you have more connection, more protection, so you're going to get more affection. You feel me? You're going to be winning because you got the bigger bolsita. So that's what they were mainly focused on. But what happens when you're getting that big bag, man? You're getting that attention. Sasuke, good intentions brings bad attention, right? And of course, vatos weren't liking that. It wasn't necessarily hate. It was just like, Sasuke, get the fuck up off our streets. You know what I mean? This is Oakland, homie. 36th Street, right then in that fashion, or 38th, or wherever it is, right? Jingle Town. Orale, Oakland Latinos United. This is just how it is. So the war has been ongoing since the early 80s, okay, or 90s. Dispensa la tira. Just a very aggressive war too, you know. And like I said, the Sureños got into the fold. And in the beginning, man, there was always some type of alliance, not necessarily an alliance, but some type of truces where it's like, we're not really tripping off these vatos in the beginning, but it seems like everybody burns their bridges. And that's what happens with most gangs, man. In the beginning, it's like, man, I ain't even tripping off them. They're cool, I guess, man, let them do their thing. And then Sasuke, one day, someday, about those breath smells, you're next to them, Sasuke, fuck their whole hood, and bam, dead homies, y todo, oh my. And next thing you know, you guys are battling. The war's on. Okay. So the BBs, he started to tell me that, you know, and just give me a lot of information into when they started, and how they spread. Now, I was always under the assumption that the Border Brothers were part of an organization that I had heard about that are in federal prison, right? And just like I said a little bit earlier, Charlie, this is not the case. They are an offshoot. They do have some lightweight, the wind blows. They do have some lightweight type of communication with some of these individuals because some of these individuals are in their hierarchy. But at the same time, this gang in Oakland wiggles their own way. They're just their own entity. They're just their own thing. Now, living in the Valle, the Central Valle, the Border Brothers did not pose no threat. Okay, we never heard about these babosos. Pensaban like, órale, fuck you, gun. I'm from the Border Brother. Okay, this pensa. Fuck you, let me clown. Right? We had never heard about these vatos in the Bay Area. We never cared to hear about them, and that wasn't our thing. Did I hate on them, Charlie? Do I hate on them now? Absolutely not, man. Brown is brown to me. But I will say this: when I would go to the Bay Area to visit familia, I always heard about them, and I assumed. See, I'm one assumer. But I'm one of the vatos that just assume shit. They would, hey, my primos would be like, hey, we're gonna go into Oakland, ponte trucha on the Border Brothers, right? If we see any of them, you already know what time it is. Get off where you're mad at. And I'm like, the Border Brothers says, yeah, I don't want to pick on my people. I'm not down with that. I'm not down with picking on paisita, my raza, right? That's never been my issues. You know, if anything says, yeah, I'm gonna support them, I'm gonna buy elote. And plus the elotes are bomb anyways. And they're like, nah, it ain't nothing like that, bro. There's a hood out here called BBs. I said, again, bro, I'm not going to oppress my people, man. If they ain't sureños, at this time I was an active norteño. If they're not sureños, man, then you already know, man, I ain't tripping off of them. And he said, okay, well, watch out, Babo. So if you see a vato in black with an AK, that's on you. And then I got accustomed to it and I figured out exactly the get down. Okay, now I don't know where the beef stems with North and Border Brothers, South and Border Brothers. We already know North and South where that shit goes. But we didn't understand, or I didn't understand. And to this day, I don't know the exact point or moment in time when they decided that they didn't like each other. But it's a fact. Okay, it's a fact. And I got to give these vatos respect. I got to give these vatos respect for being surrounded. For handling their business in a city as grimy and fucking gritty as Oakland. We're talking about Oakland, California here. We ain't talking about Oakland, Washington or some shit. We're talking about Oakland, Califas. The town business. Golden State. Orderly Curry. Pull up and pop. You know what I mean? Orale, Draymond Green. We're talking about some real shit. But this is just how it is. Border Brothers do get incarcerated. Okay? Who they affiliate with, who they click up with, for the most part, when they get to Santa Rita, they have their own tanque, they have their own pod, their own tank. You know, they're that deep. They kind of keep them separated because people out there in the Bay Area already know their wiggle, their get down, that they don't get along with either faction, North or South. But when they do get to prison, I've noticed a lot of them going to hang around with the paisa car, you know, or the sureño car. They fall into the fold with the sur. Now, the norte, we're not going to take them in. That's good at that time, because I'm telling you right now, a lot of homeboys just ain't playing that shit. You're either with it or against it. That's it. There is no half stepping, you know, period. Plain and simple. We already did that with the perros. It ain't going to happen again with the BBs. But a lot of the sureños take them into the fold because from being up north, being a raza and not identifying with the norteños, the sureños see them as, okay, you know what I mean? Hey, if you got a fucking enemy of ours, okay, ponle. You can come kick it right here. Watch out. Hey, Charlie, homie, who said you could eat a sopa? But they're good, right, in the hood. But for the most part, most of them go towards the paisas. It's just how it's always been. Anyways, man, that's a quick little brief rundown on the BBs, man. A very mysterious gang to me, and I don't know exactly too much about them. I know there's other vatos that know a lot more in-depth stories, man. I don't want to put too much stories out there that I have heard about them, because it could allegedly fuck someone's career off, and I ain't trying to do all that. At the same time, they've been established, man, since the 80s, 90s, continue to do their thing. A pretty dominant gang in that area. Like I said, just like anyone else, no one wants to go in their hood, man. If they couldn't, they shouldn't. You know what I mean? It's just better to just stay in your own area and do your thing. Remember, at the end of the day, we're all brown, man. It makes no sense to go kill someone just because they're wearing black or red or blue or green, you know what I mean? Or amarillo. At the end of the day, when the day ends, man, we're all the same type of people, man, just with different philosophies and different causes, you know. But what makes your cause better than mine? So I can't call it like an alcoholic. I'm going to proceed to do mine, and in that fashion. Anyways, with that said, man, I hope that you guys go out there, that you move fast with a purpose, that you get everything that you want coming to you, you know. But the only way to get that is to go out there and get it. Sasuke, ain't no one going to give shit to you. I can't give you $1. Sasuke, why? So you can smoke the pipa? Never going to happen. Anyways, go out there and get it. If you like these fucking spills that I'm spilling, real talk forever forward with this shit, hit that thumbs up, man. Like and subscribe. If you don't, you can hit that thumbs down, heavy as the head that wears that bull's crown. We're going to continue to do what we do right here on Gunners Collective. Get your ass up, dust yourself off, and try again. And go out there and get some feria for your family. And at the same time, go trip out on Gunners Profiles, man, where I'm rocking them profiles daily. You already know what it is. Much love to all the gente that do it every day, man. Shit, you guys are better than me. You woke up early. I did it. I fucked up. The gun.